when I became Premier, particularly when Omicron started, was that the relationship with Dan Andrews, for me, was going to be a particularly important one. I get criticised for being the open up guy. He gets criticised for being the lock it down guy. So if we could somehow work together and have similar settings in place, the ability for the media to criticise and instill fear in the community based on the approach that we were taking, we would take that off the table. So it was a strategic plan for both of us to mirror our settings where possible. That has proven to be incredibly successful, because I think when you've got, particularly in the media, on any decision the government makes, it was the most ironic one I thought was, we ended up bringing QR codes back when we weren't even tracking and tracing. There was no science behind it at all. It had zero utility, but there was a massive campaign, and when those massive campaigns get run, what it does, it depletes confidence. And that kind of reporting, as we've seen over this period of time, has depleted confidence in our people. So we actually brought it back for one reason only, to instill confidence so that people would go out with using QR codes. But where Dan and I reached that agreement was, if we could come out on the same day with the same settings, whilst he would get attacked for not going far enough, and I'd get attacked for going way too far, we could work with each other to say, well, go look at Victoria, and he could say, go look at what Dom's doing in New South Wales. And it worked perfectly. I think that relationship, particularly with schools going back, where we reached agreement on schools. I mean, when we announced schools going back, the media would rush to find the scariest epidemiologist who was out there saying every child across New South Wales would die. And that was a problem, because we had to instill confidence. So what did we do together? We agreed that we'd go and get all these rapid antigen tests, which was a massive feat. I mean, we procured millions of these tests and had the plan together where we distributed them before school started to 3,000 schools across our state and 5,000 childcare and early childhood education centres. And by doing that together and having that plan, and here's another interesting thing about the pandemic, health completely disagreed with this approach, by the way. They didn't see the point of having surveillance testing, but education wanted it, because we needed to once again instill confidence in our teachers and instill confidence in our parents that children would be safe at school. And New South Wales and Victoria, once again, a Liberal state and a Labor state, having exactly the same policy in the main, really built that confidence in. So when those reports came in, those concerns came in to parents, that there was that sense that, well, if it's good enough for New South Wales and it's good enough for Victoria, I have greater confidence. I have greater confidence in the approach. And what have we seen since then? I think one of the most important successes over this period of time, because we both agreed, Dan and I, that it wasn't just about educational outcomes for our kids. Getting kids back in the classroom on day one brought back normalcy to life here in our state, well, here in New South Wales and in Victoria, as we move through this phase of the pandemic. And so I think that approach of collaboration, sharing of information, testing of ideas has been incredibly important, and I want to continue to foster that as we move through the next stages and beyond.